Okay, so what I wanted to do today was to do a comparison amongst some of the PRS SE guitars that I have, not focusing on the guitars so much, but really focusing in on the pickups. A lot of these pickups are actually in multiple guitars within the SE line, and so I thought it might be useful to really focus in on the pickups in case you're considering one of the guitars that has these included. So let's dig into this. And so we're going to start off by kind of digging into the pickups from almost a data perspective. We'll get into some sound samples later, but I wanted to focus in on some of the information about the pickups first. So let's start off by talking about the guitars that I'm using for what I'm doing here. So I've got three guitars on hand. One is the CE24 Satin that I just bought that has the 8515 pickups in it. And those are the same pickups that are in the Custom 24, the Custom 24 Floyd, and the Swamp S Special. I've got my Paul's guitar, which has the TCS pickups in it. Those are also in the SE Standard 2408 and the SE Custom 2408. And I also have an SE DGT on loan to me from a friend. I figured, well, let's throw that in for comparison as well. Because I think these days a lot of people would say that the pickups in the SE DGT are the best pickups in the SE lineup. So really the only major pickup I don't have included today from the SE lineup is the 5815, which are in the McCartys and the hollow bodies. I wish I had one of those in hand. Unfortunately, I just don't. So we're just going to move forward with what we got. So let's start off by taking some measurements of the resistance of the pickups. So if you're familiar with this, resistance is not necessarily a reflection of the output strength of the pickups, but it does give you a sense of the winding involved. And I figure since we're comparing pickups that are all PRS SE pickups, likely doing comparisons here will give us a sense of which pickups are hotter and which pickups aren't. But just keep in mind the resistance is not always necessarily aligned to what pickups are hotter or what pickups are lower output. And so the way I've got this set up is you can see this grid we have here. So for each guitar, I measure the resistance of the bridge pickup, the guitar with both pickups engaged, and the neck pickup. And I measure them both in humbucker and single coil mode. So for the CE24, you can see here, in terms of humbucker resistance, 7.6 for the bridge, 7.16 for the neck. These are pretty low resistances for a humbucker pickup. I mean, most humbuckers that you would see generally would be closer to 8, and the hotter ones would typically be in the 9s or 10s. So kind of interesting there. If we move on to the TCI pickups, we can see that these have a little more resistance to them. The bridge is up to 8.2, the neck is up to 7.57, and then if we go look at the DGT, we can see the bridge is even more resistant at 8.6, but the neck is actually falling in between the 8515 and the Paul's guitar at 7.31. So if we compare these to each other, and what I've done here is I've just kind of color-coded them, red being the highest resistance, blue being the lowest resistance, and green kind of being in the middle. It's kind of interesting. You can see the DGT pickups generally have the highest resistance. The only place they don't is in the middle and neck humbuckers. The TCI pickups have more resistance. You can see the CE24 have pretty low resistance across the board. And interestingly, the Paul's guitar, the TCI pickups in single coil mode have the least resistance. And that speaks to the probably different ways that the split is happening in terms of single coil mode on these guitars. So the next thing I did was I took each guitar and I recorded it direct into Logic, and I just recorded each on the bridge humbucker and the neck humbucker, just kind of strumming an open G chord. And then what I did is I took that recording of each one and I ran it through a multimeter because I wanted to see kind of from a frequency standpoint, how are the pickups coming through. And so for the bridge humbucker, and so these graphs I took at the peak of the signal, so kind of the top volume level that came when I strummed the chord, this is what we were getting. And the thing that jumps out to me most here is the 8515s have a much broader EQ range on their tone than the other pickups. You can see here, there's way more in the top end from the 8515 than you're getting from the Paul's guitar and the DGT. The Paul's guitar and the DGT are actually pretty similar. The DGT drops off a little bit more on the top end, and the Paul's guitar also seems to have a little bit more of a boost on the low end. But again, overall, I think the thing that really stands out to me here is that the 8515s, they have that broader EQ range. And I think you hear that on the top end of those pickups. There's more kind of top end to those guitars. I think they're built more to take higher gain tones, and so you want a little more clarity. And so I think we're seeing that here. The other thing I did is I looked at how are the frequencies laying out when the guitar is starting to diminish. So I took all of these snapshots at about minus 25 dB. So after the guitar had peaked, as it was fading away, I tried to get a sense of what frequencies are staying around. So nothing really here jumps out at me except the fact that the DGT seems to sustain on the top end a little more. So there's a little more of those top frequencies sticking around as it sustains. And then if we look at the neck humbuckers, again, these are taken at the peak of the signal. These aren't as drastically different as the bridge humbucker. You do see, though, that the DGT tends to have a little bit of a narrower EQ band. So again, I think it's keeping it from getting too much high end, too much low end. You get a little bit more of a mid warmth to it, where the other pickups have a little more bite on the top end. So overall, kind of an interesting exercise, I think, and it gives us a sense of maybe what's going on in these pickups. So let's go ahead and move on to actually plugging the guitars in and hearing how they sound. So let's start off with just getting some dry signals from the guitars in the Logic and just kind of compare those. So I'm going to start with the 8515s. Here is the bridge pickup. And here's the TCI on the bridge. And here's the DGT on the bridge. And here's the neck pickup. And let's try a clean tone now. So here's the 8515 on the neck. Here's the TCI on the neck. And here's the DGT on the neck. And here's the bridge. And now we'll add in some gain. Here's the 8515 on the neck. bridge. And here's the TCI on the neck. And here's the bridge. And here's the DGT on the neck. And on the bridge. So I think overall, obviously, these guitars have differences in terms of more than just the pickups. There's the aspect of the construction and the woods and all that kind of stuff. But in the recent video I did where I compared this guitar to the Swamp Ass Special, which is kind of similar construction, same pickups, but different body woods and everything like that, the tone held pretty true across the guitars. So I do think the pickups, if you check out other guitars with the same pickups, you're going to get similar kinds of tones out of those guitars. So I think it's worthwhile to kind of get a feel for each kind of pickup in the SE lineup and kind of know what you're going after. So I think the 8515s, you're getting a much wider spectrum, especially on the top end of EQ signal, and you're going to get more top end, more clarity, but also it can get harsh at times. I think with the TCI and the DGT, which sounds pretty similar, they're very similar kinds of tones. You're getting a little bit of a warmer, a little less clarity on the top end, but also a little less harshness and a little smoother top end. And they also seem like they have a little more power to the pickups. So they're pushing some of that mid-range a little bit more. So I think good to know if you're looking at different guitars in the SE lineup, knowing about the pickups kind of helps you narrow that down as to which ones you're most interested in. So I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching.